The glass walls of the executive floor reflected a city that never slowed down, even when the people inside it felt completely still. Daniel Mercer stood alone in his corner office, high above the traffic, watching rain blur the lights below. As chief financial officer of one of the largest retail chains in the country, he was known for precision, discipline, and numbers that always balanced. Yet behind the tailored suit and controlled expressions lived a man who went home every night to silence. His wife had passed away 3 years earlier after a brief illness. Their dream of having children had ended with her. Since then, Daniel had filled his days with meetings and spreadsheets, convincing himself that work was enough. Kindness, warmth, family, those were things he believed belonged to other people now. That afternoon, a quarterly review ran longer than expected. By the time Daniel left the office, the rain had turned heavier. Instead of calling his driver, he decided to walk into the flagship store downstairs, one of the very stores whose profit margins he monitored so closely. He told himself he needed to see the operation firsthand. In truth, he simply didn't want to return to an empty apartment yet. Inside the store, fluorescent lights hummed softly. The smell of cleaning products mixed with fresh bread from the bakery section. Shoppers moved quickly, eager to escape the weather. Daniel walked through the aisles unnoticed, just another customer in a dark coat. Near the baby care section, he slowed down. He didn't know why. Perhaps it was the sound, a soft, tired cry that cut through the noise of shopping carts. He turned and saw a young woman standing near the shelves of infant formula. Her clothes were clean but worn. A small baby was strapped to her chest in a faded carrier, his tiny fists clenched, his cheeks flushed from crying. The woman held a can of formula in her hands. She stared at the price tag as if it were written in another language. Her lips trembled slightly. Daniel watched as she looked into her wallet, pulled out a few crumpled bills, and counted them twice. Her shoulders slumped. Slowly, reluctantly, she placed the formula back on the shelf. The baby's cries grew louder, desperate. The woman turned away, wiping her face quickly, as if embarrassed by her own tears. She pushed her cart toward customer service, her steps heavy, like each one required effort. Daniel felt something unfamiliar tighten in his chest. He followed at a distance, curiosity turning into concern. At the counter, the woman spoke softly to the employee, her voice barely audible. The cashier shook her head apologetically. Daniel didn't hear the words, but he understood the meaning. The woman nodded, whispered a thank you, and turned around. As she passed Daniel, he caught her eyes. They were red, tired, but filled with a fierce kind of love. The baby whimpered, sucking on an empty pacifier. Daniel stood frozen as she walked toward the exit, leaving the store empty-handed. He could have walked away. In fact, every instinct trained by years of corporate distance told him to do exactly that. This wasn't his responsibility. He didn't even know her name. But something about the way she had returned the formula, quietly, without anger or blame, stirred a memory of the man he used to be before grief hardened him. He turned back to the shelf, picked up the same can of formula, and then another. He added diapers, baby wipes, and a small jar of baby food to his basket, even though the baby looked too young for it. He didn't think. He just acted. At the checkout, the cashier scanned the items. The total barely registered in Daniel's mind. Numbers like these were insignificant compared to the figures he dealt with daily. Outside, the rain had softened into a drizzle. Daniel spotted the woman under the store's awning, trying to calm her baby while waiting for the bus. He approached slowly, not wanting to frighten her. "Excuse me," he said gently. She turned, alarm flickering across her face. When she saw the items in his hands, her eyes widened. I'm sorry," she began quickly. "If I dropped something." "You didn't," Daniel interrupted softly. "I saw you inside. I thought you might need these." He held out the bag. The woman stared at it, then at him, shaking her head. I can't. I can't take that. I don't even know you. I know, he said. And you don't owe me anything. Tears spilled freely now, and she looked down, ashamed. I was laid off 2 months ago. My husband left when the baby was born. I start a new job next week, but until then, her voice broke. I just wanted to get through tonight. Daniel felt his throat tighten. He thought of his quiet apartment, his stocked refrigerator, his untouched luxuries. Please, he said. Let me help. Just this once. After a long moment, she nodded. Thank you, she whispered. My name is Maria. Daniel, he replied. As she fed her baby with the formula bottle Daniel helped prepare at a nearby cafe, he sat across from her, listening. She told him about her son, Leo, about juggling night shifts and interviews, about the fear of not being enough. Daniel listened without checking his watch, without interrupting. When they parted, Daniel did something he hadn't done in years. He gave her his card. If you ever need anything, he said. Anything at all. She hesitated, then took it carefully, as if it were fragile. That night, Daniel couldn't sleep. The image of Maria returning the formula replayed in his mind. He realized that he had designed budgets and policies that never accounted for moments like that, for dignity, for quiet desperation. The next morning, he called an emergency meeting. Within weeks, changes began to ripple through the company. Daniel proposed a confidential assistance program for struggling customers, allowing store managers to discreetly help parents in need without public embarrassment. He increased wages for entry-level employees and expanded parental leave benefits. He redirected a portion of unused marketing funds toward community support initiatives. Some board members questioned the expense. Daniel stood firm. We are profitable, he said calmly. But profit without humanity is failure. Meanwhile, he kept in touch with Maria. He helped her find affordable childcare near her new job. He didn't give her handouts, he gave her opportunities. Connections. Respect. Months passed. One evening, Daniel returned to the same store. This time, he saw Maria laughing in the baby aisle, Leo now bigger, healthier, reaching for colorful boxes. She looked stronger, steadier. When she saw Daniel, she smiled, a real smile, not one born of gratitude but of confidence. I'm doing well, she said proudly. Because someone saw me when I felt invisible. Daniel nodded, emotion swelling in his chest. What Maria didn't know was that her small act of returning a can of formula had changed him too. It reminded him that kindness wasn't about grand gestures or charity dinners. Sometimes, it was about noticing a quiet moment of struggle and choosing to step closer instead of turning away. As Daniel left the store, the city lights no longer felt distant. For the first time in years, his life felt full. Not because of numbers on a report, but because one lonely CFO had finally remembered how to be human.